Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where God Almighty, or at least Mother Nature, or maybe even Storm, soon to be owned by Disney, took pity on the movie industry and sent a mighty heat wave across the land, so sweltering that only commercial-grade air conditioning would do. Yes, it's estimated that 94 million people in the United States were hit with heat advisories over the 4th of July holiday, and many of them took refuge in their local movie theater. Hallelujah! The result? A refreshing downpour of money for Hollywood, where everyone got a little wet. And while you'd expect Disney to have gotten drenched, they did not. Plot twist! Yes, while plenty of moviegoers witnessed the debut of The Wasp, thank you for those of you who sent in pictures. I couldn't do a ticket montage for this movie because of the holiday and a family event on Sunday, but the next ticket montage, by the way, will be for Mission Impossible Fallout. Oh, I'm so excited for that movie. But anyway, a lot of people were excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the 20th MCU flick opened right where it had been expected to open at $76.5 million. So, what's the problem? Well, first off, a number of you going into the weekend were like, that's too low. Don't worry. Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to blow that number out of the water. Be careful when you make predictions like that. Speaking of, trash talk, throughout the entire weekend leading up to, the final numbers, the trades were saying that Ant-Man and the Wasp was overperforming, right? And it would come in at 10 million more at 85, matching the debut of Doctor Strange in 2016. The trades, a little too eager to kiss up to Disney this time, perhaps? The downside of everyone trying too hard to be your friend. Disney's like, ixnay on the predictions, or the ixnictions pay, whatever. It's like, you're making us look really bad. And what happened is that Ant-Man seems to have turned his dial too far on Saturday as his audience shrunk by 30% from Friday. The movie was unexpectedly front-loaded with those hardcore Marvel fans hitting the multiplex, whereas the trades had, into their predictions, factored in only a 15% decline. And it's also worth noting that heat wave, while it maintained on the West Coast, particularly in Los Angeles, where some of the highest grossing theaters were this weekend, in the Northwest due to some rain on Friday, the heat wave ended just in time for Ant-Man and the Wasp to hit theaters. So only The Incredibles 2 benefited from that. And hey, Disney's the one who decided to split their fortunes, fortune and little smaller fortune. All right, so audiences, those who did see Ant-Man and the Wasp, gave it an A- cinema score, which is actually low for Marvel. The lowest MCU cinema score is for the first Thor with a B+. Isn't that just shocking? It goes to show the strength of the brand that even audiences are reluctant to at least publicly rain on the Marvel parade. Thor: The Dark World has an A-, and unless that A stands for awful, I just don't understand that grade. That's crazy. We all know that Marvel has made some B movies, but you wouldn't know it from their cinema scores. And again, that's strength of the brand. When somebody says, what did you think of this Marvel movie? Nobody, from a lot of critics to a lot of moviegoers, wants to say anything negative. Fascinating. They're like A-, that's the lowest I'm willing to go. I love it. Well, that's an average, by the way, so some people had to, of course, score lower to get that score. But anyway, while Feige has taken a bit of a box office hit, this is the MCU's lowest opening since the first Ant-Man, and before that, the first Captain America. Remember how they fixed Captain America? They got new directors. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's pretty clear, especially after the end credit sequence in Ant-Man and the Wasp, that Ant-Man is going to be a vital character in Avengers 4. So audiences needed this refresher. This was a short-term loss for hopefully a long-term gain. And while it might not have as big an audience theatrically, it will likely do very well on smaller screens. Now, you might wonder, why make a small character so pivotal in Avengers 4? Well, he was a lot of fun in Civil War. Again, different directors, right? Keep that in mind. Ant-Man was great in Civil War, so I'm very excited to see what the Russo brothers do with him in Avengers 4. So the only mistake I see here, quite frankly, is Peyton Reed. So bring on Avengers 4 with the always delightful Paul Rudd, and I would actually love an Ant-Man and the Wasp or whatever they want to call it, a third film in this series, just with a different director. Even though, because I didn't like this film, but a lot of the problems I think stemmed from Peyton Reed. Just too low energy, felt too cheap, and not enough action. They gave a lot away in the trailers, but it's Peyton's Reed fault for not giving them enough, right? That he gave them just enough for the trailers, and he didn't have enough left over for the movie. Oh, sorry, Peyton Reed. I saw on Twitter over the weekend he has a lot of friends who are, fellow directors. I think that's wonderful. I'm glad there's such a supportive community evolving amongst directors, but be careful. They're helping friends out, and they might inadvertently be pushing subpar films to help friends out. Oh, sorry. All right, so then we have a tale of two movies, The Incredibles 2 and Jurassic World 2, neck and neck in their fourth and third weekends, respectively. Fascinatingly, they are the exact inverse in their global breakdowns. Now, Jurassic World 2 just passed $1 billion, and The Incredibles 2 is not far behind. And interestingly, they've been going, they're neck and neck right now. They've been going head to head for the past couple of weeks. And they took opposite approaches when it came to dealing with the World Cup. Jurassic World 2 got into theaters just prior, right? It only has, in fact, Japan to go, but they do love giant lizards over there. And then in a lot of countries, as many of you who have been quick to point out in your defense of The Incredibles 2, which has been slower to build, but that's waiting until the world's most popular sporting event everywhere but the United States is over. Now, by the time it's done, The Incredibles 2 domestic versus foreign split should be more even like the first film. And side note, The Incredibles 2 is not only the highest grossing animated film of all time now domestically, but is very close to knocking out Rogue One to join the all-time top 10 list domestically as well. Disney is eating themselves alive over there, or it's just more bad news for Star Wars. Rogue One I thought was a great movie, though, and it just shows, Disney, they're just dogpiling these top 10 lists, and they're knocking themselves out of the competition. So I wonder what that's like for the cultural, the corporate environment actually over at Disney, between the different verticals, right? Will it become more cutthroat? They have to write themselves those nice little tweets when one of them outdoes the other with like an opening weekend or something. But I wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. Even animation's in the mix now to take live action down. I'm sure that Kathleen Kennedy and Feige are like, we don't need another vertical in here competing with us, but you have one. Bob Iger's just laughing all the way to the bank and maybe the Oval Office. All right, so then as for Jurassic World 2, it's a real mixed bag over there at Universal. They're like, we can't get Fox. Now we have a problem with one of our largest franchises. They don't have a lot over there, but they have a couple of verticals at Universal they should be proud of. The Jurassic movies, the Fate of the Furious films, which is going to come roaring back to life, I predict, with Hobbs and Shaw. That is coming together very nicely. A number of great headlines over the holiday weekend. And then, of course, they have their Illumination animated movies that do incredibly well. Universal, which I think is appropriate for their logo, is very much a global brand. They have very strong overseas numbers. Now, we've been talking about the fact that the 30-70 split is not great. That's like Transformers level, for Jurassic World. It's not a great development. However, I looked back in time and I saw that that's always been the split when it comes to this franchise, dating back to the very first entry. So actually, the 30-70 split is not too much of a problem, but where the problem lies is that domestic number. It's likely going to come in a good 300 million less than the last entry domestically, and that is a real problem. A 30-70 split ain't so bad as long as those domestic numbers are strong, which was the case with the first Jurassic World, but not the case this time around. Hopefully, this is a problem that Universal and the Jurassic team take seriously. Overall, though, for both movies, time is running out as they're entering their end game. Now, speaking of time running out, you only have until the end of this month to enter the My Road Reel short film competition, where I am one of the 4 judges. And we will be giving away $1 million worth of prizes. Plus, if you submit your film and get over 100 votes on the My Road Reel website by July 15th, you will get a free VideoMic Pro So check out the link down below to see the short films already entered this year, to scope out the competition, or vote for some of them and help one of those filmmakers get a free, awesome microphone. Now, maybe you're on the fence about entering the My Road Reel competition. Maybe you need some inspiration, or if we have to get more aggressive about it, a kick in the pants. Well, I've got something for you. Meet Gerard McMurray, associate producer on a little movie called Fruitvale Station. Now, we all know what happened to Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, but this guy hasn't given up either, and he just made his theatrical debut as a director. He directed one film before on Netflix, but this is his first theatrical release with The First Purge, and it did okay! Opening at number 4, it is the lowest 3-day debut for the franchise. You're getting some idea how agents spin these things, right? But for the 5-day, it can hold its head high. And with a moderate 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, that's his agent talking. That's not so bad. We've seen films get much worse. That's smack in the middle, right? McMurray should be able to land another directing gig. He is firmly on the board as a director. And if you would someday like to be a Gerard McMurray, you got to get on the board. And you do so by making films, short films, and entering them in competitions like My Road Reel. You got to build your resume, and this is a great opportunity to do so. All right, so as for the overall top 10, moviegoers took a hit out on Sicario 2. Ouch! As it fell a shocking 62% in just its second weekend. Any talk of that becoming a franchise, and there was talk, is dead. But let's specify a film franchise, because I think there's clear strength in the Sicario brand. I would consider moving it to a smaller screen, to streaming. And, you know, Apple, Amazon, Hulu, maybe also soon to be Disney, but all these places are looking for the next big thing. One of them should start, sniffing around Sicario. Then Mr. Rogers continues to expand his audience and actually moved up a spot to number 9. Then in the specialty market, Sorry to Bother You had a very strong per theater average as it opened in just 16 theaters. A nice feather in the cap of everyone involved, especially writer-director Boots Riley and his stars Lakeith Stanfield and Tessa Thompson. But you know what's even more exciting? Black films started out with light comedies. Remember, people like Tyler Perry, Malcolm D. Lee, Tim Story built the brand. But now moving into so many exciting different genres quite successfully. Black film. You've had biographies, horror, blockbusters, and now I think this is a big one: experimental indies. Very exciting. I saw some comparisons to Michel Gondry with this movie, and that's a very big win. Even if nobody sees it, it's just the perception. Perception is so important in Hollywood, not just with selling movies to the audience, but in building careers. So I think that's fantastic. And as for this coming weekend, it looks like Dwayne Johnson is going to fall short indeed, as Adam Sandler's animated Hotel Transylvania 3 is expected to easily beat him out at the box office and be the one to do battle with Ant-Man and the Wasp for first place. Wow, that'll be very interesting. But that's this week's Movie Math. Thanks for going over the box office with me. I look forward to hearing your thoughts down below. And remember, the next ticket montage for Movie Math will be Mission Impossible Fallout. And then, of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.